Hello and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby Babb. Today, I am absolutely delighted to welcome you, Igor from DashDevs. Igor missed out just very closely from us meeting in person for the first time at FinTech Connect the other day, the event over at the Excel Centre. And we've been talking a little bit beforehand. We've got lots of interesting things to talk to you about today on the show. We're going to kick off with Igor telling us a little bit about DashDevs, a little bit about his background in the business. So, Igor, the floor is yours. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and the business.
Hello, thank you, Toby, for a warm introduction. Let me introduce myself. My name is Igor Tomych. I'm from Ukraine, and I'm CEO and founder of DashDevs. And in a few sentences, DashDevs is a crossroad company because we started as a software engineering and outsourcing, and then we saw a really big impact of our work to the companies and their products. That's why we see and we found ourselves helping different fintechs, starting from UK market. And one of the first clients was down in LLP, kind of crowdfunding platform. And we understand that to make an impact and help clients, you need not just to serve the technical needs, but understand the financial products, understand the market, understand the business, and then the clients will benefit from that. So we crossroad company who helps as a technology, but also with a good understanding and shaping up the products to the market.
I'm always really interested with that sort of evolution of a business, and I guess it's I guess either an iterative process or a pivot depending on what you see. So when you started up the business and you went through that sort of change, how much like thought process went into that? What was the sort of was it client led? Was it market led? What sort of prompted you to say this is how we're developing the organization?
For me, it's more value-led because even starting the company, it was quite interesting process for me. I started to do the programming quite early. Like the first application I wrote when I was 13 years old, and it was
Oh wow.
98. It's like a really long time ago, and I was fortunate to have an access to internet. So I was programming like quite long time ago. I started programming, and then the first company in outsourcing, I jumped quite early. I was 18 years old, so I was most youngest developer in the group, and I started in outsourcing, and I started to build the things, and I felt like computer is something which is pretty cool. It gives me an ability to say something to machine, to express something that I want to get, and then to get the results. And it's pretty fascinating process. And then through working with the companies, I understood that for me, it's really important to keep certain values as a quality and the freedom of the decision because it helps to form better qualities or better outcomes for the client. And I've worked for several companies. And then I ended up in the situation when I thought, okay, I can do the things, I can communicate, I can manage people, like how I can use this knowledge and those values better. And then I come with the idea to start my own company. And for me as engineer, it was challenging because like you don't have an experience with the business, you don't have a proper experience with the management, maybe more with the technical one. But the idea of starting the company was values. Like I want to do this stuff. I want to do complex projects. I want to take accountability. And that's led into starting the company. Initially, I didn't thought about like big company or something which is really impactful global company or something, just small shop that is helping with the several projects. And funny stuff that overlapped well with the new technology coming to the market. It was 2011, and that
Mm.
was the early days with the mobile engineering. Like no one really understood or thought through the impact as a technology to the market. Like nowadays, everyone is pretty comfortable with the screens, iPhones in their pockets, like mobile devices. It feels pretty natural. But back then, I would say it was really, really hard to grasp what it brings to the market and how will impact, like how we even communicate, digest information, and how we work. So that's
Mm.
kind of in a nutshell.
That's amazing, isn't it? I love that sort of story. I love the sort of thought process of going through. So, give us a little bit of an idea of the size and scale of the business now. You're mentioning before that you're in Budapest at the moment, right?
Yes, right now I'm located in Budapest. Here we have a really small office, like just for me, for several peers. But initially, I started the business in the United States, and we have the head office there. We have the sales office in London, and right now our company is 130 employees. We kind of global company because we are focusing on several markets. For us, United Kingdom is a pretty warm market. We have
Mm.
really good footprint. We have pretty powerful cases there, but it's not limited to. Like we working with the MENA region right now. We're working with the Saudi Arabia, Bahrain. We have a footprint in the United States. So it's kind of European Union plus UK plus United States plus MENA region.
Sounds like good areas to be looking at. And talk to me about how you found the FinTech Connect event. So you're over there. The sales team were in position as well. How was that as an event for you?
It was pretty good because I took a part as a panel moderator. And for me, it's always really important to meet people, exchange the thoughts, exchange the view on the markets, because that how it helps me to keep up to the date what is happening. Because
Yeah.
you see numbers, you see news, but people, that's what drives everything. So having this connection, having an ability to discuss the things, to see what is bothering them, what makes them or keeps them awake at night, it's really important. And then you can understand better what are those numbers and news and stuff meaning.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. I love looking at the sort of meta themes of these sort of events and see what's up. What was out of interest? I mean, I've got an overwhelming view of what the hot topic was at that event last week. But what was your takeaway?
I would say that like if we go into large enterprise business, everyone is trying to keep with the speed of the changes because technology is evolving really fast. Like I can
Mm,
compare with my past experience. Like 10 or 15 years ago, the technology didn't run so fast. Like you might have certain things coming to the market, and then there is 5, 7 years, or even 10 when it's implemented, impacting your business. But right now, it's like changing every year. A few years ago, it's a blockchain. Nowadays, it's AI, and then models, and then a lot of stuff. So I think business is trying to educate themselves to keep with the speed of the changes and
mm,
understand better how those changes can benefit for the business, like AI and automation, chatbots. So I think everyone understood that you cannot play independently how it used to be, because large organizations saw themselves as the companies who knew how to do the business. And technology is something like as additional service. If you even
yeah,
take a look on current regulations, usually IT and technology is rather support process. It's not a core business, but it
yeah, yeah,
has been changed. It had been really changed because right now technology is driving the digital products, and how we consume our product is purely digital. Another angle, which is important for me personally, like when we started to develop the first digital bank in United Kingdom, dozens, we were educating ourselves with the market, like what is going on, and the mobile penetration was really low. Like if you take a look, a customer of the digital bank or over the bank, only 50% of the customers they were using mobile applications. And nowadays you cannot imagine yourself without having an access to your bank account and like current balance, whatever, with the mobile application. So in this case, our perception is different, and we need to educate ourselves how to live in this fast changing world. And that's what I
mm,
think like the main topic that I got from this conversations and small talks and discussions, the panel, like how would you keep up with it?
yeah. Absolutely. I think this. Yeah, you're 100% right. That evolution of changing the market. I think we always think it can't move any quicker, do we? And then all of a sudden it moves quicker. And AI is exactly that sort of acceleration, that sort of petrol on the bonfire, as we've spoken about it before. So, yeah, no, I'm very similar sort of takeaway from it. Igor, I want to talk to you. I know you've got some thoughts around sort of team and organization structures in fintechs, and that's obviously a topic there that everyone's got an opinion on, and does in numerous different ways. And but it's maybe something there that potentially when people are building fintechs, they're not necessarily thinking about or haven't planned in other ways that they would do with funding, as a, for example, product or whatever it goes. But I think if you look at team and organization structure, those are some of the most important parts of long-term success for a business anyway. Give me your view and your thoughts on that subject.
It's a pretty hot topic for me, and I would start with maybe some like kind of assumption that I think makes certain companies more successful than other ones. And this assumption sounds like all the companies are the same, but the difference is how you fix the things in terms of the time. Like the company A might start the same as a company B. And then whatever you do to be successful is to come up with the fixes or enhancements over the time quicker than your competitors. And if you think about this assumption, you might check it. Like you can go to the market and see that certain companies came to the market faster than other one, like started. They were one of the first digital banks out there. But then you see
First mover
other.
advantage, yeah.
Yeah. And in this case, like you see that other players came to the market later, but somehow they might be in better position than the market. And the idea how they made it is because they fixed or grasped something faster in terms of the fixes and enhancement over the time. And if you think hard about this assumption, then you understand that you need to develop the team which is capable to do the things which are not known right now. Everything is changing. Technology, context, macroeconomics. You cannot predict and build the rules for the team or expect the team just play by the rules. You need the team which is capable to understand what are the issues and make fast and good decisions to solve those issues. And that's how I come up into the team. So in my vision and the experience that I have, and I was lucky enough to run my own company, but as a technical vendor to have an ability to help other companies. And I've seen successful companies. Like we built as a technology, we built the Dozens Challenger Bank, and it has been on the market for several years, but it failed the competition. So technology was there, certain things were there, but what can be done better? And the answer for me, it's my personal one, to have the team which is capable independently to come up and see what are the issues and how they can be solved. And it's pretty hard topic because in this case, understanding what is the issue is one of the problem. Like, what do you think? Because there are different types of the people, different thinking, entrepreneurial, managerial, administration, etc., etc. And then how we coming up with the solutions and fixes and enhancements. That's another topic. Like, do we need to fix something? Do we need to work on the, I don't know, team culture? Do we need to focus on the process? Do we need to focus on the product? Lots of topic. But in this case, like overall idea is pretty good. And I think from the experience of what I've seen on the market, the most successful companies is the companies who made this culture with the people discovering issues and making the fixes for them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more with regards to what they're talking about. Look, I've worked in the in my day job in the recruitment industry for the last 25 years, and I've always said that yeah, and this is a key theme I talk about all the time, that you can have the best technology, the best product, but if you haven't got the team behind it, that's never going to move anywhere behind and anywhere further forward. If you've got an average product but a great team, they'll turn that product and turn it into a fantastic business model as well. So I think, and it's so easy to overlook, particularly when you're starting from a as many companies do, from a very technology driven founding team. So the founder of that business might have this sort of very deep tech and they're very passionate about the tech, et cetera, and it all comes into the product. However, when you look behind it, it's what's going to move that business further forward is having that focus. And when I look at the companies I'm most inspired by within the sector, the ones who seem to have that inexorable growth, the ones who, as you say, defied the odds or move faster in other areas than other people, are those ones who've had that sort of ruthless and continuous focus on their people around that. And I think it's such an important part to look at. So I'm really pleased you brought that up. The other thing, I'm involved in another podcast which we're putting together at the moment, and interestingly, I cover it from a people perspective, and I'm working with the CTO of another firm, and he looks at it from a technology and innovation point of view. He was the chief technology innovation officer for a company called Kepler Chevrolet, and he's fascinated by that element of it. So we both come at it from a different angle and look at various innovators within the space. I know you've also are a passionate aficionado of innovation and technology within the space. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts around there and what we're seeing in the fintech arena at the moment.
I would maybe continue a little bit with this topic because we are naturally coming to the technology, and once again, my assumption that from my experience that technology is facilitating the business. I see that sometimes innovation is mixed up a little bit with the internal desire of the technical team to explore certain technical things. But
Yes.
what is always beneficial for the business to take a look how it helps for the business because innovations and I don't know, we can go to the Peter Drucker, the guy who invented the blue collar term and actually put the managerial way more into the form as we know right now. And the idea of his innovations in the business is to find the ways how to help the business to do the stuff faster and with a more quality or cheaper. And I think sometimes we're mixing up like the internal desire to create something new and it might be a good thing, but we don't know the like how it's going to be used. And once again, I can go back in the history. Like right now, we know internet, and everyone is using applications, websites. For us, it's pretty natural, but we don't see this like evolution process which happened decades ago. Like
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the day one, there was
Yeah.
mail services, and people were exchanging with emails. And internet or dub services actually didn't start itself from the first day. It was
Yeah.
Gopher, which initially like has been built for communicating, linking the pages, etc. And it required certain time to understand how the technology is providing the best value for the people. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes with the technologies, we're seeing this cycle. Like with the blockchain. There are a lot of buzzwords and a lot of things happening in crypto, but I think the technology itself will come through several evolution life cycles when we understand how it's better used and benefit for the business. Like for me, the test case for blockchain is pretty straightforward. Like name the company which has been built the business model on top of this technology. And it's really hard to do so because usually those companies who are leveraging blockchain, they either payment facilitation, either like some kind of as a Robinhood, wealth management. So it's part of their existing service. So I would rarely say that there is a business model which is built on top of this technology. So my maybe message to our listeners to always ask yourself a question like, when we are saying innovation, are we really saying innovation for the business or are we saying just innovation in technology? Because I find those different things. And right now, if we're talking about innovations in the business, a lot of things are happening because the world is changing dramatically. The pace is once again really fast, and we see a lot of underserved clients in different areas, like even with the digital banks. We have a trend like all the modern people who are fast with the mobile devices, or they have a proper status in the specific country. They always served and overserved because you have a lot of applications, you have a lot of financial products available for you. But
Yeah.
there are people who are not so good with the technology. Like for them, it might be hard to access those products which are trendy and mass market. And there are people who underserved because they have the technology, but they might not fit into the business model or regulations. So I think from the innovations in the business, a lot of things are happening. We see a lot of players come into the market, go in for underserved client bases, like immigrants, like people who have a specific access to the specific technology, et cetera, et cetera. So I think digitalization it's not over yet. Like we just
No,
started.
absolutely.
Mobile devices has been with us for I don't know decade and like decade or 15 years if we count from iPhone, but not everyone is using that, and not all the people are served with the all required services. So let's explore what is there, how we can facilitate, and if we put aside the business, in technology, a lot of things are evolving, and I think when the buzz will settle a little bit, like with the AI as a with blockchain, we'll see more usage and more stable benefits for the business because everyone was talking like AI, I don't know, robots will replace engineers, and for me, it's always fun to hear because I started development with the .NET as a language and the platform in 2013 to 2003. And the communication over like back then was that .NET is so sophisticated, so you don't need need a bunch of the developers to develop e-commerce. Like you literally can go and type create e-commerce, whatever, create the function, and then everything is coming out of the box for the developers. So the efforts to create a regular application is really decreased. And what I find in 20 years from back then, everything is the same because we attempt to think that technology will reduce and impact the digital products or the technology, but in this case, we're just producing more in the same amount of time, and the things are becoming much more complex. So instead of like we used to write more code with the more time, but right now we are writing less code, but the infrastructure is more complex. We are providing more complex solutions, more complex products to the market, and it doesn't mean that developers will be not required or other, I don't know, roles as the BAs or as the project managers. So I think we need to educate ourselves and settle a little bit the understanding how those technology is really innovating the business, because it's not the same. Like having
Yeah, yeah.
something as a technology doesn't mean that it will be properly merged and used and fusioned in real business, and that takes time.
It definitely takes time, and I absolutely agree with you. I think um, the scaremongering that the robots are taking all development jobs is probably some way off from it. But and people always sort of look at this sort of sensationalist stuff, but it's how it moves further forward. I had I moderated a fireside chat on at FinTech Connect, speaking to Ben Renner of SigTech, and Ben was really interesting in what he was talking about on that stage, suggesting that the internet obviously was when that came in, there was a talk of a massive increase in productivity because of it and everything it brought. But actually, if you look at global productivity since the dawn of the internet, you've seen it move down. So why is AI going to be different in that? How can we, there's definitely a necessity for it when you're looking at increasing cost margins and everything that we do. Productivity is the only answer that can move us further forward. So we need to embrace that tech to come through. And that to me is the really interesting thing about innovation within a space. It's not necessarily what can we do, it's how can we move everything forward and look at the business and make these decisions and improve that
and top line piece to get ourselves bigger, brighter, and better as it moves further forward. So yeah, I love what you're saying around there. And I think look, this fintech space we're in at the moment, the landscape of current fintechs is in a really interesting position. It's a much more globalized market, as you were alluding to earlier on. We've got a pace of change also, as you alluded to, where we're seeing tech innovation and technology changing at an ever increasing pace. There's so many different areas of fintech as a catch-all, from digital assets and payments all the way through to capital markets, fintech at the same sort of stage. So we've got a really interesting sort of time aligned to global volatility, macroeconomic pressures, everything else in there between, funding, runways and landscapes. I think it's a really, really interesting and challenging sort of time within it as well. But you're there and you look at it from that sort of very privileged global view of where all of your business is located across the world. What are we looking at?
I think we're in really interesting and good position right now because it's not like certain things are out of control. And I think the most innovations are happening between two bad and bad states because right now there is a shortage of capital and investments into certain startups. But I think in one way it's bad because you cannot just take an idea and try to do something, innovate and go to the market. So you need to be more effective for the capital and more effective for the execution. And in my experience, it brings the most interesting results to the market. Like I once again, I'm quite fortunate to have an experience working from 2004, and I have seen this period like after 2008 when everyone was saying, okay, we don't understand what is happening. The global market is going into some bad areas. We don't have enough capital. If you take a look on the dot-com issues a decade ago, everything's too bad. But actually, that if you reflect a little bit, but that was a really good moment because it triggered a lot of innovations. Like mobile applications or mobile devices started to pop up, like iPhone and then Android devices. So I think we need to at least sit for a couple of minutes and think how with the limited resources we can provide more results to the market, more results to our customers. And actually, that's usually the moment that the most of innovations are happening, like radically changing our view and see what we can happen. So in my understanding right now, we are facing some kind of correction.
Yeah.
Years and years of a lot of money poured into the different startups, established business. They made an assumption that everything will go this way for years, but it's not, and that's okay. And I think right now I'm kind of a few steps behind the moment that everything will ramp up. We have certain crises happening, especially with the full-scale invasion to Russia to Ukraine, with the issues in Asia region. But in one way, I think that also gives us like an ability to reflect, ability to think how we can be more effective in those new terms and new context, and then shift our understanding, our products, our customer base to a new level.
Yeah. I mean, they always say never waste a good crisis, don't they? And I think that,
Yeah,
that if you look back through time, where some of the biggest breakthroughs and innovations have happened, these things have been fuel to it. So you know, even going back to the pandemic, and you look at how that sort of accelerated, you know, cloud adoption, particularly in the capital market space, there was opportunism and growth within that. You look at various elements of 2008 and the you know, the big tech companies that sort of came out of that sort of period. That to me, I think it's a fascinating time. Look, there's a lot going on, you know, macroeconomically across all areas of the world. But one thing is certain that, and particularly, you know, you mentioned there, you know, let's look at both of the areas, you know, particularly mentioned. Let's look at it, the Ukraine and Israel. Both of those areas have traditionally brought out very, very strong, you know, tech businesses. And both of those businesses, or both of those regions, continue to do so. And I think the suffering that's happening in both of those areas, and the pressure that's in both those areas, actually continues to sort of build that out. People are thinking differently, and when you think differently, you create different solutions to some of the problems. I'm particularly excited about what that means in the longer term, and what sort of things that we'll be looking at from it. And so I think, yeah, I agree with you that fintech space at the moment is in a very exciting position. And I think it, you know, when you have the pressures that we've been seeing over the last couple of years, so often innovation in technology is at the core of how those sort of things come through, and how we see a better, brighter, bolder future coming from it. So yeah, I'm pleased that we're in there. So tell me a little bit about you know, DashDevs and what you're seeing coming up, what 2025 looks like, what's exciting for you, what's exciting for the business, what do you see happening in the marketplace over 2025? We're recording this right at the very end of the last few working days of 2024. This will be released in February, I'm pretty sure, of 2025. Looking ahead, what's exciting about DashDevs? What's exciting for you about the marketplace?
For me, really exciting that all the players on the market, they understand that they cannot survive by themselves, and everyone is trying to put efforts into building ecosystem.
Yeah.
It starts with the technology, and like, just imagine, ClearBank is facilitating almost like all the accounts right now in the digital or fintechs, opening accounts and facilitating faster payment by being just B2B platform. So you're not pursuing the customers yourself, you're building infrastructure, you're building ecosystem. And big banks are heading there with the Santander, with their platform, and with the other players. So for me, I think we're in the moment when we clearly and consciously understand that we need to create platforms and solutions rather than building every time vertical till the product. So you can actually be good positioned on the market where facilitating the market rather than pursuing everything, like starting with the technology integrations and then going into the B2C market. And by understanding that, the next moment comes that we will see the shift in products rather than providing the SaaS solutions. Companies will shift and will tend more to have the control over the product itself by running in our own infrastructure and by controlling the quality and maybe even the sources. Because in this case, like we see that AI, everyone is pretty cautious with the data, where it's stored, how it's processed, and that becomes another question because the data is new oil. There is a really nice book. I mentioned this in a podcast, like the book by Kai Fuli. He used to be the head of Google China, and he wrote really a nice book, AI countries, like how modern countries in competition over the data. Because if you own the data, if you know how your customers are behaving, then you know how to impact the market. And I think that's a trend we will see. We understand that we're building not verticals, we're building platforms. And then it's really important to be control over the data, over the information that you have. So in this case, it requires build products and platforms which can be hosted with your infrastructure, be in control over your data. And I'm personally putting a lot of efforts, and I think this year, 2025, will be interesting for DashDevs because we are focusing on building the community, which is called FinTech Garden. And we are thinking right now, and I think during the recording, we're still thinking, but I hope to see more tangible steps in February, like to start accelerator and help companies to define their maybe technology and even business models in the current market state. So two things which I see in changes and updates how we did the technology before and starting from 2025.
Very exciting. And I know that you're breaking into the podcast scene yourself as well. FinTech,
Yeah,
that's something you're doing there.
yeah.
How's that? What can people do to, or where can people find it? What can people expect to hear when they listen to FinTech Garden as well?
It can be found on the like usual platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcast. We have a page at DashDevs website, so you can go there and see the podcast insights. And I think it's a little bit more technical. My co-host, Dimitro Kondrea, he's a delivery manager. He used to be a delivery manager in Solaris. So we kind of discuss more stuff from regulatory and tech perspective, how the things are impacting the business, certain cases, how it has been happening. So it's more discussion of two friends who have some kind of T-shaped understanding of the market from the technology and from business side, how the things are going or what has been happening. So it's more like fireside chat.
Yeah.
But please come and check out. Maybe you will find it interesting.
Absolutely. Well, look, I love it. I love the fact you're going into it. For me, it's been a great journey. We've been doing it for a few years now, and it's allowed me some amazing things to speak to some incredible people. And Igor, you're right up there on the list for all of that as well. Thanks so much for joining us on the show today. If people want to reach out and find you and chat a little bit further, what's the best way for them to find you?
LinkedIn. So just come to my page, just connect, and then just drop a message, and I will try to find the time to discuss and help you.
You're a good man. Fantastic. Igor, lovely having you on the show. Thanks so much for sharing the wisdom with us today. Very best of luck for the year ahead. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Really appreciate the time. I really appreciate the efforts because I know how precious it is running the show for several years. And thank you for doing that. And thank you for your invitation.
My absolute pleasure. And thank you all for watching. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we will see you soon on the next episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.